All right, so we're going to start. Thank you. Nice to have you here. Welcome to Shabbat Services Unlocked, Synagogue Skills, okay? So the first thing I want to do is talk. So if you look at this Shabbat Services Unlocked, this first handout, okay? This will just give you a little overview of what we're going to do. So we're going to really look at the Torah service. Who was here last time with Miles? Okay. So I think you went through the structure of the service. Is that correct? Okay. Up to the Torah service. So now we have Sidurim in all of the pockets. So what I would suggest is if you reach underneath you or the seat pocket in front of you, you'll find a Sidur. Okay. Those online, you might have Mishkan Tevilah. And if you don't, it's okay. We're going to turn to the Torah service, which you can find on page, I believe it's around 362. So if you'll open up to 362, this is the Torah service. Okay? So if you look at your sheet that I gave you as well, so it says, opening the Torah service. So we have the beginning of the Torah service, which starts with Ein Kamocha and El. Here it says Av Harachamim. We sometimes change it to El Harachamim. It's more a little gender inclusive. So say El Harachamim, God, instead of Av Harachamim, Father. So we often will sing El Harachamim. So this is the opening of the Torah service where we have these number of prayers to get us to the point where we're going to take the Torah out. And then we sing Ki Mitzion on the next page, 364. And then on 366, we sing Baruch Shenatan. So these are all prayers to help us take the Torah out. So you look in the synagogue and you see, right, this beautiful sanctuary, right, with the windows and this wood everywhere. But in the Torah service, there's a transformation. We go from being in the sanctuary to perhaps someplace else. Where do we go as we're starting the Torah service? We go to Sinai, right? This bima becomes a mini Sinai, Mount Sinai. And so as we go up, we're going to go up the mountain to then open up the arks, and then we're going to receive the Torah from God. We're going to receive the Torah, and then we're going to sing some of these prayers. So I think we'll start with that part. We want to go through some of the skills, and so part of it is we'll open up the ark. I'll sing some of these prayers. We'll open up the ark. And then I want somebody, and other people then who would like, will get an opportunity, because we want you all to be able to try these skills, of carrying the Torah. So the first thing would be carrying the Torah. So as you see, that's the next part on here. So we hold the Torah upright and close. We walk slowly and deliberately into the congregation. We eventually get to the Torah blessings that we'll have. We'll look at those. And then we eventually do Hagba and Galila. We'll talk about the structure of how to do that. It's on the second side of that page. And then returning the Torah to the ark. So we begin with opening the Torah. Is there anybody who would like to come up with me as we open up the ark and take out the Torah? And we can actually have, three people. We'll have two people to help open the ark and somebody to carry the Torah. Who would like to carry the Torah? Ben? Okay. So we start with Ein Kamocha. If you want, you can sing with me. Ein kamocha va'elohim Adonai v'yein k'ma'asecha malchutecha malchut kol olamim u'memshaltecha bechol dor v'hador. We're on page 362. Adonai melech, Adonai malach, Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed, Adonai oz le'amo yitein, Adonai varech et amo v'shalom. And then we would have everybody rise, which you're doing already. Perfect. Okay, and then the three of you come with me. El harachamim hetiv avirtzoncha et Zion. Timneh chomot Yerushalayim. Let's have Alina and Norm open. Ki letziot Yerushalayim. Yeah, we can actually open up the ark too. So in the ark, Melech Ram Benisa Adon Olamim. So maybe we should point out, because it's also so beautiful, one of the things we talk about is Hidur Mitzvah. Anybody know what that means? Hidur Mitzvah. Hidur comes from like Hadar. It means to beautify the mitzvah. So this is all like a mitzvah, to take out the Torah and to read from it, to chant from it. We have, one of the things to beautify this mitzvah is actually this curtain, this parochet. So before we have you open it in a second, but let's take a look at it. What do you notice? I don't know, Bob, if you can focus in on the parochet, but if you look at this, it has what? It's a stunning parochet that was actually made by a member of our congregation, Nina Edelman. She made this. And so as you look at it, what do you see, Alina, when you see, or in anybody that's up here? You see the different species, the 7 species. And if you look carefully, you can see there's pomegranates, grapes, olives over here, there's dates, okay? That's the figs, yep. And if you look at the actual curtain itself, if you look at the relief, you can see there are pomegranates here, and there are also, down here, there are pomegranates kind of in the curtain itself. And then here, you can see there are grapes, and over here, there are grapes that are kind of in a 3D right over here. So it's really, really beautiful. So now let's have you open it up. Again, this was made by Nina Edelman.
Saw him at a play last week.
Did you?
Yeah.
Oh, wonderful. Oh, that's fantastic. All right, thank you very much. So now we have how many Torah scrolls? 6 Torah scrolls. They're all different heights, they're a little bit different, but what's inside each of the Torah scrolls? Exactly the same thing, the 5 books of Moses. So each Torah scroll has the 5 books of Moses, starting with Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. Okay? We often will read from this one that's on the left here for a number of reasons. One, it's one of the lightest ones, so that helps with Hagbah. Number 2, this was one that was commissioned by our congregation for our 150th anniversary. So that was about 18 years ago, I think now. This has become an adult. About 18 years ago, this scroll was commissioned, and we all had an opportunity to help write it. So we'll take a look in a moment when we bring it down to actually look at the scroll as well. And also, the silver that's on the scroll, it also helps with what we call Hidur Mitzvah, to beautify the mitzvah. The silver on this particular scroll was commissioned. There was a family that commissioned, or friends that commissioned Annette Hirsch to create this. So we'll look at that in a little more detail as well. So we have this beautiful silver that she made here. She actually made this, the silver here and here as well. This was not, this was purchased, but she made this kind of set, and then this whole set. All right? So now we're going to take out this Torah. And I think, Ben, you were going to hold it. So what we want to do when we hold it is we pull it out. And depending if you're left-handed or right-handed, I'm actually right-handed. I'm actually left-handed, but I put it on my right. I like to hold it on my right. So what I try and do is I have my right hand down to receive it, and then this hand, hi Mom, hi Dad, they're actually out there. You can wave, but you can also put it, here. But most of it is your right hand, and it's leaning against your shoulder. You can do it like this, but then you're kind of like gravity is really pulling it down. So if you put it against your body, it's taking a lot of the weight. So we do this. So actually, we'll let Ben hold it right now. And then when we get down there, you can each have an opportunity to try. Okay? Very good. So you've got that. And the Torah weighs about 30 pounds, and about 7 or 8 pounds of it is probably the silver. So then it gets a little lighter. Okay? When we're up here, we then sing the next part, which is on, sometimes we take out the Holocaust Torah too, if it's on our Bar Bat Mitzvah. We'll take out this other Torah scroll, which survived the Holocaust, and which we use to remember perhaps a child who perished in the Holocaust. So then we read on page 364, we sing Ki mitzion, from out of Zion will come the Torah, the word of Adonai from Jerusalem. Ki mitzion tetzeh Torah. Ki mitzion tetzeh Torah. Udevar Adonai mirushalayim. And then on the next page, 366. Baruch Shenatan Torah Torah. Baruch Shenatan Torah Torah. Le'amo Yisrael b'kedushato. So if you use your imagination, perhaps as you were coming up here, you saw the dry ice, and you saw the clouds and the smoke, right, on Mount Sinai. So here we are. We've arrived at this moment. Ben, why don't you come right in the middle? Come right here over in the middle. And here we are. So Ben is kind of being like Moses right now. And the tradition is that then we say these beautiful words on page 366. This is the doctrine, really, of our faith, Shema Yisrael. And so, and we do this back and forth. So from the top of the mountain, Moses says these words to the people. And what does Shema Yisrael mean? Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai our God. Well, I just said what it means. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad means, hear, O Israel. It's like, listen up, you guys. And what's the message? It's like E.F. Hutton. The eternal our God, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. The eternal our God, the eternal is one. And then we're done, right? We put the Torah back? No. Then we have the congregation says, aha, yes, that's right. And they repeat it back. So let's try that. You start.
Okay.
Shema
Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu.
Adonai. And then we repeat it. We agree with that. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Then we say the next line. Our God is one. Adonai is great. Holy is God's name. Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shemo. Then we sing that. Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shemo. So I don't know if you ever thought of that, this back and forth. It's like top of the mountain, everyone agrees, they sing it back. Top of the mountain, everyone agrees, we sing it back. And then we turn around, we say this last line. Gadlu Adonai iti. And then we close the ark. So Alina and Norm, if you can help. First we'll close the curtain, the parochet. Very nice. So these are honors that you might have coming up to open the ark or close the curtain. Very good. Then we put that together. And then we march. And so we have a procession. And if you'd all like to join in the procession, why not? So we'll kind of, for right now, we'll go down that way, okay, to the left, right through the middle, go around and come up this side. Sometimes it just depends on the procession. So we'll start over here. Lecha Adonai hagedula v'hagevura v'hatiferet v'hanetzach v'hahod. Stop for a moment. Okay, freeze. So as you're going through, there's a tradition we just saw, right? We just saw Sherry and Megan stopping, touching the Torah and bringing it to their lips and kissing it. Sometimes people use a book. Sometimes people use their fingers or the tzitzit. Sometimes people will hold their hands up and kind of like position it and then do it, so they don't have to actually literally touch it. But there's a tradition to kind of bring the beauty of the Torah to our lips. Okay?
What does that symbolize? And can you use your hand?
You can't use it. I mean, a lot of times people will use a book or the talit. You can use your hand, but then you're kind of like, depends on your hand. You've got oils, whatever, you could smudge it. But I would say most often people will use the sidur and kiss it. The prayer book or the talit, and then kiss it. It's usually some other type of thing. Okay. There's probably also there's different customs. There might be a Sephardic custom.
Sephardic custom we always touch.
You usually touch it. Okay.
And actually the women don't, so that's why I like being able to do it here.
Oh, okay. So I'm repeating because I'm not sure everyone can hear. Sephardic tradition is that the women, everybody touches the Torah, and especially here, the women can touch the Torah. So. Usually, well, there's also different traditions, but generally touch and kiss. Yeah, bring it to your lips. So here we go. Come on. ככל בשמיים ובארץ, ככל בשמיים ובארץ. לך אדוני הממלכה והמתנשא לכל לראש. So before we actually put it on the table, I think we'll give anybody who would like an opportunity to kind of hold the Torah and maybe do a circuit around the reading table. Okay? So who would like, anybody else would like to try and hold it and carry it? And see? Anybody? Going once. All right, you want to give it a shot? Left-handed or right? Right. Okay, you have it on your right. There we go. All right, so then you see, you look like a natural, it looks comfortable. Okay, you can go around the table. Just know, we're going to actually go just around the table. Lecha Adonai hagedula v'hagevura v'hatiferet v'hanetzach v'hahod. Anybody else? Okay? Anybody? All right. So now we can't actually read the Torah yet because it's all covered up with this beautiful stuff, right? So we have to undress the Torah. Okay? So let's take a look at this as we undress. This is not considered, a lot of times we'll have on a bar mitzvah, we'll have the kids undress the Torah. So we'll actually have them come, because it's a little easier to take the stuff off than actually put it on. So later, we have Hagbah and Galila, lifting the Torah and then wrapping it together. And that, we actually call people up, sometimes by their Hebrew names, so that they can have an opportunity. So, who would like, we can take off the crown. For right now, we kind of have this, usually we have a stand here, but it's over in the corner, so we're not going to put it over there. So who would like to take, Sherry? Okay, so take off the crown if you would. And you'll notice it's kind of heavy, right? It weighs about 5 pounds probably. So all of a sudden the Torah is getting a little lighter. Okay? So we'll put that nicely right there. Okay? And so this is the crown. It's called the keter. All right? Now, somebody maybe will help to take off the yad. All right? Who would like? Okay, Oscar, come and take off the yad. And then we'll talk about this yad in a moment. Okay, so take it off and we'll put that on the reading table because we're going to use that. All right, and now let's see who we have. Megan, would you take off this breastplate? Okay, and the breastplate will go onto that table as well. Thank you. And Rich, you want to take off this mantle? Okay, so some people look at it and they see this and they start to like take it off. No. We're just lifting it off. And there's acrylic, so it's actually really easy to do that. Not all of them have acrylic. That can go, we'll kind of put that back over here. And then what we do is we put the Torah on the table, okay? And then we have the belt. All right, so I was going to say you could be seated, but if you want, you can actually come around the table. You might want to see the actual Torah, because we're going to talk a little bit about that as well. So what do you notice about this mantle that we have here? And Bob, you might want to get a shot from above, because now there's a lot of people in the way. Very good. Okay, what do you notice about this mantle? We did, and I think you were a part of that. Yeah. Who was a part of that? Sherry, I think we might have been. Were you, Ben?
Tell me about that.
So,
Yeah, we all did some of these.
I think it was around, I'm trying to remember the year. Yeah, I mean, it was before the Torahs, even. Before the Torahs. I think it was probably, I came in 2001.
It was just the rim down there?
No. It's after I came. I came in 2001, so my guess is it was about 2004 or 5. So it's probably 20 years ago that we did this. So we had an artist come in from California. Nancy Katz, I think is her name?
I think we do it on paper and then she
Well, I forgot.
No, I'll explain, because I remember. Okay? There were 2 different parts to this project. There was cutting linoleum piece, you can cut into linoleum and then you can press it, like iron it in. Is that what it's called, linoleum?
That's these.
That's what these were. So she had little blocks that we'd have to do it kind of backwards, because then when you press it, it comes forward, right? It comes the right way. So people could press, like make a little star. Then she took all of the stuff home. She took it back to California. We knew the dimensions of the of the Torah, how long they were, how wide they were. So then she had these pieces of fabric, especially this. This one is silk. This part's silk, and this is velvet. So the silk she had spread out. She had 6 of them. Or I think we had maybe 7 total at the time. But they were spread out, and then you see how there are these kind of lines here, the white lines. This was kind of a border. It was actually some kind of material that was here that was separating the different parts. And then she had all kinds of dyes. And so the kids, especially in religious school, had an opportunity during religious school to come, take their brush, and put it in, and it didn't really matter. That's why there are all these special colors. So part was yellow, part was this. And so they each had an opportunity to help create this part. And so then she took all of that big fabric, and then she sewed and weaved it into mantles. Some had velvet, some had this. Later when you see, some of them had like a strip of velvet. You know, she made it into different. So then part of it was the silk that especially the kids helped to design. And then this was more like the board and teachers and people who could come in. We would do these congregants, you know, we would do these linoleum blocks, and then she took them back and she made these beautiful mantles with this stuff. It really was congregation made, right? So, yes, Alina.
Sorry. All the scrolls have a purple.
Yes, so it always had purple. We'll go look a little at the end. We'll all go up, and you'll get to see them in more detail. Yeah. Well, purple is a royal color, and so she had purple velvet, and then and they don't always have just at the bottom. You'll see some have it on the top and the bottom. Some have this kind of swath of silk this way. So we'll see that. You'll see there are different. But it was really a beautiful project to do.
In most synagogues, they don't have to be purple. They could be a different color.
Right, it could be a different color. Yeah, sometimes.
Don't you swap them out different times of year?
Yes, we do. There's one other time, right. So on the high holy days, we have the white mantles. And those were actually, there's a story behind 5 of those were actually done by Nina as well, Nina Edelman. So the next time you see those, there are 2 on the top sides and then the 3 in the bottom. Those were all done by Nina. And then there's one in the middle for the very big tall Torah that we found there was a mantle that we had from the Gendelmans. And so we used that one. So, yeah, there's a lot of history and beauty to these mantles, all right? And really to the whole Torah. So here we have this Torah. So we'll put this over here for a moment. Okay? And let's take, so some of these you can read and it will also explain, you know, I think we're just going to keep going, but I wanted to give you some handouts that you could take with you at the end. All right. This says from Maurice Atkin in honor of the bar mitzvah, his grandson Samuel Vondra. So Sam Vondra, it might have been nice if I think John and Lisa were thinking of coming. And actually, I think this was a mistake. It's supposed to be in honor of his great-grandson. But this one is still very nice, so we use it, even though it says grandson. And so this is Velcro as well. It makes it very easy. It's to eventually use as a belt here. Okay. Sometimes they have a clasp, but this one you can kind of pull a little more and kind of keep it together. All right. So we saw the well-dressed Torah has what parts? It has a belt to kind of keep it together. It has the mantle that we saw. On top of that is a breastplate. What is a breastplate used for? What does that symbolize, if you will? Protection, yeah. And also, we'll talk about that in a second, protection. A breastplate is for protection. And then the yad. This one is a yad, but it has it doesn't have a hand at the end. So we're going to talk about that in a moment. It still is a yad. It's a pointer. So in this case, it's not a yad meaning hand, but a yad meaning a pointer to facilitate. And then we have, after that, we have the crown. Okay? Again, a sense of beauty. But also you mentioned, what did you say, Ben? The high priest used to wear a crown with bells, and especially when they would go into the Holy of Holies, they needed to, kind of have some of these garments. So the Torah also kind of is a remembrance of those times when we had the temple, when we had the high priest.
I thought it was from the ark that they carried in the desert. I thought that talked how that was decorated. No?
There are some, I think it does mention like there were the aphods and they had different, yeah, I mean there are in the Torah, it talks about the tabernacle, that it had different things. It talks about the menorah, when they would set up the portable sanctuary, they would have, the Beit HaMikdash was the temple, this Beit HaMikdash, but the Mishkan, that was a place where God would abide, and it does talk about a menorah, seven-branch menorah. They would kind of carry it along and they'd set it up. It had a basin. They had the Holy of Holies. They had an ark, right, that they would, portable ark they would carry, and the Torah would be in that as well. Okay? So let's take a look a little more closely now at this Torah. And look at, these beautiful handles. These were designed, this one especially, when we had our, 18 years ago when we celebrated our 150th anniversary. And this was written by a scribe who was based in Florida. Okay, this Torah has a lot of frequent flyer miles on it. Seriously. This Torah was primarily written in Israel. So they would send it. They would ship it, FedEx got a lot of, so it has a lot. So it would be shipped to Israel. And then the scribe, whoever it was, would work on the Torah. And then at some point the scribe's coming in because we're going to fill in some letters. Okay? So then at that point, it would go back to Miami. And then he'd bring it to Milwaukee. And then we'd fill in some. And then once we filled in a bunch of letters, boom, back to Israel. And then they worked on it some more. It takes about a year to write a Torah. Okay? So when so if we look at this now, we're going to look, and we're right at the point where it's a very special part of the Torah, because this Shabbat, Yael Baralski is becoming Bat Mitzvah, and she is going to be chanting the Shira, which is right here. You can see it looks very different from almost any other place in the Torah. Do you see that? So if you want to take a look at it, you can see. Okay? I'm going to move this out of the way a little bit because he may kind of focus in and then he can kind of see it. There we go, straight down. I think I'm going to move this up a little bit. There we go. That's probably better. Okay. So, what do you notice about just, I guess, anything? Like, come and say, what do you see when you're looking at this Torah? Like,
To me, it looks like water. It looks like the sea. It looks like
oh, it looks like the waves a little bit. Some people say it looks kind of like a wall because at some point the water was like a wall on both sides. So if you look from a distance, you could kind of see, the black against the white, kind of like bricks, right? Okay. What about, I don't know, Bob, if you can zoom in. I'm going to move it over a little bit here to this part. And can you really zoom in? I don't know how much you can zoom in here. What do people see? Let's see if I can move this just a little more. There we go. That's good. You can hold it about like that. Okay. What do you see? How is it written so uniformly, I guess is my question. If you look at this, what do you think? Can you see anything that might be that might help?
Looks like the length. It's pretty much written with the length of the sounds.
Well, I'm thinking, let's look at this part first,
Can you
because,
see the little tiny lines?
do you see there are some lines right here?
I never noticed it before.
Do you see there are little lines? These are actually lines that are etched in to the parchment, and they go across. Do you see that? So that is a guide, these lines. And also, if you look this way, you can see the lines as well. See this way? And we're using, and the Torah is so special that we can touch the side, but we often we just use the yad when we're on the inside. On the outside, we can touch the outside. But since it's so holy and so sacred, we use the yad when we're kind of pointing out things inside. So, but you see that, right? You can see these lines that go out this way and this way. And so basically, it's a way to justify the text, right? The computer, right? Left margin, right margin. Okay? And where do you notice? You see these lines. Look at the letters, if you look in carefully. Where are the letters in relation to the lines, the horizontal lines? Well, look at it closely and you can see. You can come in a little bit and see. So if you look at the line, let's take,
The last line.
It's really hard to see it.
yeah,
It's at the top.
it's at the top. The letters are actually hanging from the lines. Okay? So the letters, okay, so you can see there's a line right there. You see that? You see that line? So the letter is hanging from the top. It's actually a very different type of calligraphy. Usually, like John Hancock, sign on the dotted line. So you write on the line, you sign your signature, right? But this is one of the only styles, especially in Hebrew, where a Torah, they always hang the letters from the top. Okay? And what let's see, if you were a scribe, what would be very advantageous if you're left-handed or right-handed? Left-handed, because you would start over here and you're writing this way, and so by the time you get over to here, but if you're writing this way, you might be smudging, right? So I would say that there are a lot of left-handed scribes, actually. Doesn't have to be, but there are. It just kind of turns out that way.
Do you see that the lamed goes above the line?
The lamed does go above the line. There are really no letters that go below the line, but the lamed goes above, and you also have this calligraphy. There are certain letters that have crowns.
Yeah.
Some have one. Oh, yeah, try not to touch it. There are certain that have three and some that have one.
Are those for tropes or what?
Nope, it's a style. And this is, I don't know if this is a Sephardic. I think it's an Ashkenazi calligraphy. Also, you notice this is a very talented scribe because as you're going across, all of these letters are fairly uniform. Because if you're going along, then all of a sudden you get, oh, I need to get to that edge. So here, for example, he's writing along, and he's realizing, you know what? I've finished Uvain, and I have three more letters. Okay, so that hey, what do you notice happens that he did with that hey? He elongated a little bit. So sometimes there are certain letters that you can elongate, like this resh, or a hey, or a fe. Okay, but the way you can tell if a scribe is talented is you look at the end of the lines and see how, as you're looking at this area, oh, are they pretty much uniform? This is a very talented scribe because you can't even really tell too much. Sometimes you see a whole bunch. This is going to be different. We'll look at that in a moment. But you can see at the end of these columns that they're pretty much uniform. There's a couple hays, resh. There's no hyphens in the Torah. No hyphens.
And
That's
so
right.
primarily there was just one scribe. Primarily, I mean you had
Primarily, it would take a scribe about a year to write. Yeah, because you also want the same.
and uniformity. Yeah.
Exactly, uniformity. What else do you notice at the top of each column? What's the first letter at the top of each column? It's a Vav. You see that? This is called a Vav Torah. And in the last 100 years or so, the Torah scrolls have been more uniform, and they're called a Vav Torah. And it will actually correspond to a tikkun. Does anybody know what a tikkun is? You have the word tikkun olam. What is that? What does that mean? Repair the world, or tikkun can also mean aid. Like tikkun repair the city, but tikkun can mean an aid. So tikkun lakorim is an aid to reading. So you can have a book that has on one side, like a column with the vowels. In fact, my father is just working right now on a Torah portion for the Shabbat, so he's using a tikkun. So you read on one side the portion with the vowels, and then on the other side it'll look like this, and it corresponds, especially when they're linear. They weren't always linear. Then it was really hard to find your spot. But when they're linear, you kind of look on this side, and then you look over on this side, and you can like learn it with the vowels, learn it without the vowels.
That's how Lucy learned her portions like that.
With that, yeah. What I do is I kind of teach these big sheets. And I teach it with the vowels, but then I put another sheet that's kind of the same size on the other side, and then so you still can kind of go across. So so this is called a Vav Torah. Every column starts with a Vav except for a few. For example, this one starts with a Hey because there's no Vav nearby. Because if you look, not every letter starts with a Vav. So you've got to really kind of plan it out. Vayechazek Adonai le Paro melech Mitzrayim ve'yirdov. So you can do it, but that's why it's kind of uniform. Somebody decided this is a good way to do it, and a scribe, how do they write one Torah? What are they looking at to write the Torah? Another Torah. They are. They're looking at one Torah to write this Torah. So they're kind of matching it up. And sometimes that's why sometimes there can be errors, because they might be tired. Maybe they forgot a letter or forgot a word.
Do they have a gabbai that looks then?
Well, there are, I mean, after you write, how many columns are there from one seam to another? Let's look at that for a second. So here's one seam.
And here's another. Is the shira?
Yeah. Well, the shira, that one might be a little different. But generally, let's count them. Here's 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? So there are 4 columns from one seam to another. And what is from one seam to another? What is this material? What is this that we're writing on, that they're writing on? Huh? Parchment. But what type of parchment
Sheer,
is,
I don't know if it's sheep or
it's a skin. So it's written on a skin of a kosher animal. So it could be a sheep, could be
cattle.
a ram, could be, in this one case, it is cattle. This is a cow. This is a cow skin. And if you look, you can kind of see on the back of it some of the spots of the cow. So, a piece of trivia. So how many cows does it take to write a Torah? There's about 200 columns in a Torah. So, 4 columns per, it's about 50. About 50, maybe, 50 skins, if you will, or so, on one sheet. And if you make a mistake, maybe, the scribe realized, oh, I made a mistake. You don't use whiteout, but you can take a razor, and this is all written with a natural dye that's made out of like different types of plants and this and that. You use a feather, like usually a turkey feather, to actually write. It all has to be natural. A turkey feather, so that's been cleaned, obviously. Okay. And so when we were helping to write the Torah, the scribe had his hand here, and we put our hand on the feather. And so then, as he was writing, we were doing that. There's a tradition. It's a mitzvah to write a Torah. It's one of the last mitzvot in the Torah, which is what we did. So we helped to write a letter, which is in a sense helping to write the Torah. So we all had an opportunity to. It was a fundraiser for the congregation. It wasn't like Wheel of Fortune. We couldn't buy a vowel. There are no vowels. But you could buy a letter, or you could buy a word, or you could buy a book, or you could buy whatever. So there was an opportunity to come in and be as a fundraiser. So there are some places in the Torah, the beginning and endings of the books, where we had an opportunity to fill in the letters. Okay? So this is a Vav Torah. There are many older Torahs that are not. They don't have Vav at the beginning of each one, and it's a little harder to find the spots, like where you are. But it's
How are they held together? Because
okay.
I always worry when you lift it up that.
Like this here.
Okay, so here's a seam. Let's see, Bob, if you can focus in on this. I'll put it in the middle. Right here. It looks like a Band-Aid. Can you see it? So up here? All right, so this is not a Band-Aid. It looks kind of like, you can touch it if you want because it's on the outside. All right? This is actually part of the parchment, part of the skin. Okay? But it's used, there's a special glue that's a natural glue that then goes this way. But that's not the only thing, because that's fine to help reinforce the top and the bottom. But what about this other part?
Oh, it looks like it's thread.
It's not thread, though, because if it's going to be natural, what's it going to be?
Linen,
Tendon.
cotton.
It's going to be it's going to be gut. It's going to be some kind of material, like we used to make tennis rackets, right? Out of like a, so this part, it's been cleaned, okay? But this is, it looks like it's like the tendon or something, whatever. It's like it's a part of that is, and they thread it through, but that helps keep it together, okay? And that's why it's not on paper. I mean, it's fairly sturdy. I'm not going to try it,
I always
but
worry because it wiggles a little.
yeah. Okay, so no vowels, Vav Torah. Let's go now to the Shira and take a look at that for a moment. And then I'll chant a little bit. We'll practice a little bit of the Torah blessing.
One thing before you chant.
Yeah.
So when someone is being called to the Torah to do an aliyah,
Yeah.
and you use that great big introduction for them.
Okay.
Maybe you could do
Yeah, I will explain that as well.
And also how you find, is it just from how you rolled it up the week before? Because you always move it a little bit and then you find your place.
Well, right. I usually will set it ahead of time, but I usually try to keep whatever we're reading from kind of on the roller, because otherwise it could, kind of like, like when it comes in together, some of it might end up like this, and then it's creased a little bit. So I try. That's why I kind of like will set it so that it's over there. So then I can just move it over, and there's going to be like a crease because somebody like didn't tighten it enough or something. So that's how I do it. But it's true. There's kind of a technique and a way to find the portions, because there's no vowels. It doesn't say, we don't have our automatic roller where it says, you push a button for Bishalach, you push it, and then boom, there it is. It goes to it, right? So how do you find it? Usually it's at one of the spaces, okay? So there's going to be a space. There's no periods. You don't know where necessarily the sentences begin or end. But for example, we'll go back for a second to here. I know because I've been working with Yael and whatever. So, here's a space, right? Here's a space. This it says Vayehi, and the next word is Bishalach. So this is the Parshat Bishalach. Usually the Parshiot, the portions get their names from one of the first words in that portion. Okay? So this is the first word of Bishalach, and this goes on for like 3 or 4 columns. But we start here, Vayehi Bishalach, and so this is the portion Bishalach. It has the first aliyah is about here. It goes to the second. Eventually, this is about, I think it might be, it's probably first, second. This is about the 6th or 7th aliyah by the time we get to the portion here, okay? But here's the beginning of it, Vayehi Bishalach. All right, so here we are. This is the Shira. And you notice there is no, it's not uniform at all. You see that? But in order to kind of have the sense of this laying of the bricks or this beautiful poetry, there's a tradition to have a certain number of words, and you have to extend them. This is a really hard word to read. Va'aroma menhu. And it's hard to see it with the race. I'll chant a little bit of this one, okay, so you can see. But before we get there, you're right. We put the Torah on the table, and this will be in your packet that you can see later. How many aliyot generally do we have on a Shabbat morning? Well, 7 Shabbat. 7 is traditional for a Shabbat morning.
Not for Reform, I've seen 3.
Right, so in a Reform. So let's kind of work our way. 3 is the minimum, and 7 is usually the maximum. Although if you have more people that you want to honor, you can add aliyah to kind of break them up a little bit. So they're called hosafot. You can add an aliyah, and you can have an extra aliyah. Does anybody on Zoom have any questions? We can't really see you here. Yes. Mom, no? Questions? Nancy, anybody? Okay. We just thought if you do, the Zoom is on, and since we can't necessarily see you, feel free to just jump in and ask a question, as people are doing here, okay? You can unmute. I think you have the capability. You can unmute and then just ask a question. Can you guys see what we're doing when we're doing it here? I think so, for the most part. Yeah? Okay. So here we have the Shira, and again, we just talked about how it's not, so we really have to practice this. It's hard for a 12 or 13-year-old to read these. First of all, it's a poem, so it's not like, God spoke to Moses saying. No, these are really hard words, difficult words, okay? So we spend a lot of time practicing. So we'll move this now in the middle. And there are some parts of the Shira melody. I wanted to get back to the Torah. So let's say we're going to call somebody up. So we have 7 aliyot on a Shabbat morning. 3 is the minimum. When would we read 3 aliyot?
Maybe a Havdalah, or a midweek?
Yeah. So for a mincha service, Shabbat mincha service. So remember, we've just read Bishalach, right, in the morning. And then already by Saturday afternoon, there's a tradition to read Torah again. But what are we doing? We're going to read 3 portions. But what are we doing? We're going to read the next. It's kind of like on TV, right? They give you a little teaser of like what's coming up for next week's episode. So that's what we have. We have a teaser, and we read, let's say there are 7 kind of big portions. We take the first portion, and we divide it into 3 parts, okay? So we have 3 littler parts of the first Torah portion of the next week. We start that already on Saturday night. And then what are the other 2 times that we chant Torah traditionally?
Midweek.
Monday and Thursday.
Why Monday and Thursday?
Because
Why do you think?
we're shopping days for the
Yes, those were market days. Now we have refrigeration, we have, stores are open 24/7. You don't feel it the same way. But in the old days, when you didn't have refrigeration in the same way, right? Maybe they had ice, and they were like, you buy your fish, but it's packed in ice, and you got to take it on your wagon, get it home, and hopefully it's not too hot. So, what are the days that you're shopping? Well, first of all, Shabbat, things are kind of centered around Shabbat, right? So Shabbat, you have your big meal, there's leftovers on Sunday, but then it's Monday. You need to go and get some more food. It's going to last for 2 or 3 days. So Monday was a big shopping day, and people would go to the market. Sometimes they're open all the time, but they would really have much more produce on Mondays, okay? And then on Thursdays, same way, 3 more days, okay? Now it's, you get your food for Thursday, Friday, Saturday through Sunday, and then you go back again on Monday. So what about reading Torah? So why do we read Torah on those days?
Because the people are there.
The people were there. The people are in the markets. If you ever go to Machane Yehuda in Israel, it's amazing. It's this open air market right in Jerusalem. And one of the shops, now they have all kinds of designer shops, and you can buy jewelry and this and that and all kinds of stuff. But there's a little synagogue couched in there. It's almost like a stall. There's a little synagogue. And so people would be there, and they say, no, come, tefillah, whatever, mincha, whatever, shacharit, come. And then they would read Torah, because everybody's there. They would gather them. They would read a little bit of the Torah portion on that morning, for that morning service. On Monday, because everyone's there, Monday and Thursday. And then Saturday is the big day. And Sunday already we're looking to the next portion. Okay? So that is kind of the story. So that's why we have 3. What about 4? What would be the next kind of, there's a certain time when we read 4 aliyot. The new month. On a new month, traditionally, there are 4 aliyot, okay? Also, in the middle of Sukkot, or Pesach, it's called Chol HaMoed Pesach, or Chol HaMoed Sukkot, not on Shabbat. Shabbat, you still have 7. But in the middle, you would have 4 if you're reading Torah. There's a tradition to read Torah during those middle days of Sukkot, or the middle days of Pesach. There would be 4 aliyot. How about 5? 5 would be kind of the next level up, would be traditionally, not that we do it here, but traditionally for the Shalosh Regalim, for the 3 festivals. So on Sukkot, not if it's Shabbat. Shabbat, it always goes to 7. But if it's a weekday and it's Sukkot, there are 5 aliyot. If it's a weekday, if Sukkot falls on a weekday, if Passover, first day of Passover falls on a weekday, there would be 5 aliyot. Okay? Yom Kippur, traditionally, was 6. Except on Shabbat, it always goes to 7. But, okay? And then Shabbat is kind of the highest, it's 7. So there's always 7. Okay? So in our Reformed tradition, we give people an option, depending on the size of their family and how much they want to read. They can have the 7 aliyot, not that they have to read it all. They might get the family members to read, or 3. We do like 3 or 7. So we give them an option.
So what if you are finishing one book of the Torah and starting another?
Uh-huh.
Is that 4? Or
The Simchat Torah is like a different beast. Because on Simchat Torah,
Well, like what she's saying, though, not just that necessarily, not at the end of Deuteronomy and the beginning of Genesis. I don't think that's what she means necessarily. I think she means, like, what if you're starting Bamidbar?
well, if you start Bamidbar, that's in the middle of the week. That's in the cycle. You finish the book of Leviticus and you're starting Bamidbar, there's still 7. But actually, Simchat Torah is an interesting thing, because in Simchat Torah, there's a tradition to give anybody who's in the congregation who wants an aliyah, an aliyah. So you have, let's say, 7 Torah portions. So the first 5 you read over and over and over for whoever's there. So somebody reads through, and then through 5 times, and then there's a new person. You go back and you read the first, the second, the third, the fourth, the fifth. So you can do that.
That's what my daughter does. She's the one that has to do the reading, but it's the second half, so she reads the first part of it.
Okay, so that's traditionally what you do. Is you read that it's called V'zot HaBracha. There's like the last part, V'zot HaBracha. It's in 7 portions, but you do the 5 over and over, and then there's something called Chatan Torah. Okay, there's Chatan Breshit, and Chatan Torah. So then traditionally it's Chatan, but it could be a Kala if it's a woman. So it's a big honor to get the last Aliyah of the Torah. Okay? And that is, so then there's like a whole big kind of production that you say to call that person up. Chatan Torah, they read the last portion of the Torah. They get the last verses. And then that's the sixth Aliyah. And then the seventh is Chatan Breshit, where you start over. And we usually just read the first day, the first 5, but traditionally it's the first 7 days. So they read those 7 days. That would be Chatan Breshit. That's the seventh Aliyah. What's that?
She does it for every Torah that we have at our.
Oh, really? Okay. So, I mean, there's different traditions, but that's a tradition that I remember, that I grew up or that I knew of, as in the conservative movement. And then there's still a maftir, something called a maftir aliyah. And that one is, specially for the day of Simchat Torah, because and so you have another Torah that you take out. So traditionally, on Simchat Torah and a couple of other times, you would read from 3 different Sifrei Torah. Because you read from the end of one, the beginning of another, and then somewhere in Numbers, you'll read like the portion for Simchat Torah, like for the maftir. So
When we do an aliyah, we usually just do the blessings, but technically aliyah is to read a portion of the.
well, what does the blessing mean? So now let's take a look at this sheet, okay? So now we're going to get to the Torah blessing, okay? So let's cover this up a little bit. All right, so here's the blessing. Then you have this sheet at home, and you have it in your PDF as well, okay? So here is the blessing for the reading of the Torah. All right? And so when you are going to have, so you're going to be called up. For the bar and bat mitzvah, I call them up with a special kind of introduction. That may be what you remember. So I say, Tamod, like for Yael, Tamod, please come up. Habachura, that means the young lady. Bat ha-mitzvah, the bat mitzvah. Yael Adina, or I think it's Yael Bar Menachem David Veharav Achana Ashira, that's her Hebrew name. Shivi, the 7th Aliyah. Chizki, be strong. So we just say their names, Tamo, David, let's say, so, David, the son of, for my father, like Eliezer, Verut. Shlishi, the 3rd Aliyah.
Now for the first Aliyah, it's a Kohen.
Well, traditionally, the first Aliyah in a traditional setting would be a Kohen or a Bat Kohen. The Kohen or the daughter of, there are different, there used to be a system. The Kohanim were the priests. The Leviim were the singers, okay? And then there were the rest of us, the Israeli, the Israel. So you had 7 Aliyot. The first was given to a Kohen or a Bat Kohen. The second, to say the blessings. The second to a Levite or a Bat Levi. And then the 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th would be given to Israel. We, in our egalitarian system, in our reform system, we don't make a distinction. If somebody is a Kohen, we might give them the first and even have the Kohen in their name. But if it turns out that they're going to have the 3rd Aliyah and they have a Kohen, we'll add the Kohen designation, but they'll have the 3rd Aliyah. So it's not, we don't do it in the same way. There are different traditions. Well, we're going to get to Hagban Galila. What time is it? My watch is here. Let me just take a look. I want to make sure that I'm 8:10. Okay, we're good. So we have to 8:30, so we're good. So a lot of times when you say a blessing, let's talk about, I'm going to cover this up just for a second because we're not actually reading. Let's say you say a blessing for Hamotzi, right? Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Then what do? Eat what?
Bread.
The bread, because you just said a blessing over bread, right? Or borei pri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei pri hagafen. And then what do? Drink the wine. Say a blessing over wine, drink the wine. Okay? You say a blessing over the Torah. What does it say? It says, praised are you, eternal God, sovereign of the universe. You have called us to your service by giving us the Torah. We praise you, O God, giver of the Torah. And then what do?
Read the Torah.
You would read the Torah, chant the Torah. But not everybody remembers like how to read, right? So, but usually a blessing follows an action. It's followed by an action. So you would say the blessing for the Torah, and then you chant the Torah, and then you say the blessing afterwards. The bar and bat mitzvah usually do that because they've been practicing. So Yael is going to do her 7th aliyah over the shira. So she's going to chant the blessing. She's going to read from here all the way down to here, and then she's going to do the end blessing. Okay? But we also sometimes, it's a nice thing, again, to be able to say these are a little more accessible, let's say, the blessings, whereas maybe chanting from the Torah is not quite as accessible. So they thought, well, let's give more people honors. We'll give somebody the honor of chanting the blessing, and then they can look in and see what's being chanted, even if they kind of have a surrogate. Somebody will designate it to pinch hitter, right, to read on their behalf. But traditionally, that's what you did. You read the blessing. Thank you for giving us the Torah. You chant from the Torah, and then you say, again, thank you for giving us the Torah. What's that?
When we studied at Tursky for a while, and then they all come up and read. That's what I thought.
Right. They probably had their blessing, and then they chanted, and they did the end blessing. And that would be, but, in many places, unless it's Orthodox, or somebody who's very learned, it's a way of giving more people honors. Okay? So that's what we're going to do. So we're going to practice. If you want to come around this side, you can see the blessing. We have it in the Hebrew, we have it in the transliteration, and we have it in the English. So first we're saying this blessing over the Torah, and that's one of the sheets that I gave you is a copy of this actual blessing. I'm not sure it's right there. It might be it's over here or something, but you can look here. But you'll have it. You have it at home. But basically, what do you do? How do you have an aliyah? Usually you're called up, right? Yamo David ben Eliezer Verud Shlishi. So you come up on the right side, and you'll read in the packet that you have that sometimes there's a tradition to come up as quickly as you can to kind of run to do the mitzvah, and then on the way back, you take a longer circuitous route. You schmooze. You say hello to people. They say Yasher Koach, straight strength. You say Baruch Tiyeh. Sephardic custom, it's a little different. You say Baruch Tiyeh, and they say Chamatz. It's in there. There's different Sephardic customs as well. So let's try the blessing together.
Girls don't read the Torah in Sephardic tradition. I've never heard it. I don't say it.
Oh, but I think it's Chazak v'Yamat. So somebody says Baruch Tiyeh, and they say Chazak v'Yamat. So you can take, again, you don't want to touch you don't want to touch inside the Torah. Probably even that. It's Sephardic. I don't think they touch. So you would take your talit, the corner of your talit, or the belt, or a sidur, and you touch where it begins. And then you bring that to your lips. And the Sephardic, sometimes they actually start with a kiss and then touch it. Okay? I feel, this is kind of, it seems to me a little more sanitary. Kind of like touch it and then bring it to your lips, although I guess eventually it's going both ways. But you do that kind of to mark, this is where we're starting, kiss it, and then together, then you say the blessing, and it's kind of like the call to worship, where the leader will say, Baruch Hu et Adonai hamvorach. The congregation says, Baruch Adonai hamvorach le'olam va'ed. In our Reformed tradition, sometimes we just have that. We just have those two. But traditionally, then the reader repeats that line as well. Baruch Adonai hamvorach le'olam va'ed. But there's a kind of a call and response. You wait. So try it one more time. The reader says, Baruch Hu et Adonai hamvorach. Then you hear this, Baruch Adonai hamvorach le'olam. Then the reader says, Baruch Adonai hamvorach le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim. V'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah. The congregation says, Amen. Now the reader, if the reader said the blessing, if the chanter said the blessing, you don't need to say Amen to your own blessing, because you just said the blessing. But if somebody else said the blessing, then the chanter is going to also say Amen. But they're not just going to say Amen. They're going to go Amen, and they're going to sing Amen. They're going to chant using kind of the Torah trope. So they go Amen, and they go Amen, and then they go into the portion. So you'll hear the beginning is this kind of is a Sephardic tradition of how to chant the Az Yashir Moshe. It's really beautiful. And then after about 6 verses, it goes into regular Torah. So I'll do the first part. Az yashir Moshe uvenei Yisrael et hashira hazol Adonai vayomru lemor Ashir al Adonai ki ga'o ga'a sus verochvo rama vayam. And it's also a tradition for the person that's on the right side here, so they can help to hold the Torah open so that, like I'm left-handed, sometimes the left, whatever, but, sometimes it can be held on both sides. So that's a nice thing for the person chanting, is to kind of help and hold this part open as well as, okay? Ozi vezimrat ya vayehi li lishua ze'eli ve'anvehu Elohe avi va'aromemenhu. It's kind of tricky there. Adonai ish mechama. And listen to this next word. Adonai Shemo. You have to fit that whole kind of phrase into 2 words. So you have to kind of practice that Adonai. Markevot paro vechelo yaravayam umivchar shalishav tu be'u veyam suf tehomot yechas yumu yadu vimsolot kemo aven yemincha Adonai nedari bakoach yemincha Adonai tir'atz oyev. Then it goes to regular Torah. Uverov geonecha taharos kamecha Teshalach aron lecha yochelemo kakash uveruach apecha ne'ermu mayim nitzevuchem oned. That's a big daled. Nozlim kafu tehomot belev yam amar oyev erdo vasachasi achalek shalal timlaemo nafshi ari charbi torishemo yadi. So far we haven't had the word Adonai in here. Okay, but no, look what's going to happen. Nashav taviruchacha kisam oyam salalu kaofer b'mayim adirim. Look what's happening. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh, norati lot osef ele. You probably recognize those words, right? Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai. Who is like you, Adonai God? This is from, we have it in the evening service and the morning service. It's part of our prayer. Comes right from here, from the Shirah. Okay, and then it goes back. Oh, sefele natita yaminecha tivlaemo aretz nachita v'chestecha amzu ga'alta nehalta v'yazecha nevei kodshecha. So it kind of keeps going, but then as you get to another Adonai, which is coming up over here, you kind of get into this. Nahamogu ko yoshvechenan tipol alehem emata v'fachad bigzol zerocha yidmok ha'aven ad yavor amecha Adonai ad yavor amzu kanita. So anytime you're about to hit the word Adonai, same thing coming up, leading into here. Mihiktash Adonai konenu yadecha Adonai imloch leolam ba'ed. So anytime you have the word Adonai, it has that, goes into the special Shira melody. Okay? And so then it continues on, and eventually it finishes here. Vatan lahem Miriam shiru l'Adonai ki ga'o ga'a sus v'rochvo rama vayam. This is when Miriam took her timbrel and danced. And so it says here, Vatan lahem, and then Miriam answered them, shiru l'Adonai ki ga'o ga'a sus v'rochvo rama vayam. It's the same thing here. Az yashir Moshe v'nei Yisrael. Let's see. So this is Ashira Ladonai ki ga'o ga'a sus v'rochvo rama vayam, very similar to Shira Ladonai ki ga'o ga'a sus v'rochvo rama vayam. Here we have this whole poem that Moses reads, and then Miriam gets one line. Maybe to kind of say they did it all over again, but we don't do it all over again.
So since there's no trill, how do you know that it goes from the singing part to the chanting?
I can tell you in one word. Tradition. This is what we learn in cantorial school. So, we learn kind of, and there are guides and there are things to know. That's a tradition that we go into the Shira melody when we have the words, when we have Adonai. If you use, some people in Sephardic, they would probably use that whole melody all the way through.
I was going to ask you about that.
I think so.
About that.
But since I know there's a Sephardic melody, I like to use that for the first 6 verses or so, and then we switch over to the Ashkenazi, where it's kind of regular Torah trop going into the Shira melody. And you can even hear like Micha Mocha Ba'elim Ranai, Mika Mocha Nedar Bakodesh Norati Lo Dosefela. It's similar to Az Yeshim Moshe Uvenei Israel Et Hashira Hazol Adonai Vayomru Lemor. This is much more of a song, the Az Yashir, the Sephardic. Yep. So that is just an example of a little bit of the trope. So let's say we finished right there. Rama Vayam. Take this again, touch where it ends, and then hold the handle, and we do the end blessing. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torat emet v'chaye olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah. Beautiful. And that's how you have an aliyah. Then again, traditionally, if you're in a traditional synagogue, you would probably go from the right side, you linger with the Torah to the left side. And then the new person would come up, and then you keep switching. And then when that person's done, they come over to where you are, and you would sit down. We have, ever since COVID, it wasn't so good to linger with the Torah or to linger by each other. So we kind of come up for the first, and then we have people go back down. So, and also in the winter, it's just in general, it's probably, it's just there's a lot of people crowding in. So that's, I think Rabbi and I may discuss it to see if we want to change it back. But at the moment, that's, except for the person who has the aliyah, like if there's 7 aliyot, so that if the parents have the 6th aliyah, then they stay up for their child who has the 7th. But otherwise, people usually go back right away. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you so much for those. The rehearsal was.
Oh yeah, and then the rehearsal. Yeah, and then the rehearsal. We have an opportunity to kind of take pictures, usually the Thursday before, or whenever it's going to be, or Saturday morning. So then we have, the child is all dressed up, and they can do pictures.
Without that rehearsal, I wouldn't make it to my next slide.
Well, and then we do some choreography. Especially like passing the Torah and when do you go around and this and that.
That would be wrong as well, or read it. So,
What do you mean? I didn't understand your question. You're saying
not, if somebody wouldn't follow exact tradition of
chanting?
chanting, or, for example, if somebody would do this and chant it all the way through, that also would be acceptable, right? It's not like exactly right or wrong. There are different traditions.
Well, I think there is a very structured way. If you're in a traditional synagogue, the first aliyah is this long, the second aliyah is this long, and so you follow that. There's something called a triennial cycle. Anybody ever heard that word before? Triennial.
3 years?
3-year cycle. So to shorten the Torah service in a traditional synagogue, it could take 45 minutes to read those 5 columns, right? That's a lot of time, for the tuchas to bear. So sometimes there's something called a triennial cycle, especially in the conservative movement. Some congregations will read the first third of Breshit, and then the first third of Noach, then the first third of Lech Lecha, and then go through it. And then the next year they read the second third, and then they read the third third. So you're reading a third. So instead of taking 45 minutes, it might take 20 or 25 minutes for that part of the service. You would then break up the first third into 7 portions. So somebody did all the math and the calculations of, like how to break it up. If you're in the first third and the second third, the third third. But that would be another. But what we do in our congregation is we say, what part of the portion of these 5 columns is interesting to you as a bar bat mitzvah? you can chant those. We do want you to chant it in order. So 12 verses in order, or 21 verses in order. Every portion in ours has to be at least 3 verses. So it could be 9 or 12 if you're doing 3. It could be 21 or a little more if you're doing 7. So find which ones you like and then do that. So that's another, so we have a little more flexibility within the portion. Okay? So we've just finished the Torah. We cover it back up. And then we call up Hagbah and Galila. So now we've come to the point of lifting the Torah and wrapping the Torah. Okay? There's a technique, and anybody who wants to try is going to be able to try today. Okay?
I can do it because she taught me.
Okay? So this is the one time during the week that I get to use the word fulcrum. Okay? So you use the table as a fulcrum or a seesaw or a teeter-totter. Okay? So it's a point. You use the kind of the medium, the middle point. So what you're going to do is I usually will set it here. Okay? I'm not going to put it right in the middle right here because we're going to practice doing Hagbah. Actually, you know what? We need a chair for the Galila part. So let's, sure, we can take one of those. Yeah. Let's just put it right about here. No, right here. We'll get it closer because then it might be more in the frame too. Here, we'll just, because I know a bit, I think here. That'll be good. So we'll just use that. Looks like we can still see it. So basically, there's a tradition to show, and I did read somewhere that there's a Sephardic tradition is that you do Hagbah at the beginning. Have you heard that at all?
I've seen Hagbah at the beginning.
It is Sephardic tradition. You show everybody ahead of time, this is what we're going to read, and then you read it. Okay? I didn't actually know that either, but I just saw that. So that's one of the things it explains in the Hagbah and Galila. So what you do is, I'm going to set it over to here, just so as we're rolling, we're not going to kind of make a crease into the, as we're trying it. So basically, there's 2 parts. The Hagbah is lifting and showing the congregation, and then Galila is wrapping it back up. Okay? Let's see. Actually, there's one more thing I wanted to show you before we do that, about the crown and about the set. How we're doing, I want to make sure we're okay on time. Well, we have 2 minutes left. But if you guys are okay to stay a couple more minutes, is that all right? It's not super cold out. Last Thursday, it was getting cold. We didn't want to do that. All right. So this is a set. Okay? Can you do a top-down view again? Perhaps? From the top? I don't know, Bob, if you can do that or not. So this is, it says Perach Kodesh. Okay? If you look at the crown over here. And here, this also says Perach Kodesh. And this is the Yad, which is like a pointer, right? So what do you notice about, what does it have on it, and what does that mean, Perach Kodesh? Kodesh is holy. Perach, prachim, are flowers. So you could sometimes think of the Torah as a tree of life, right? It sustains us, it nourishes us, it shades us. Or it could be a holy blossom. It's fragrant. So in this case, that was the imagery that Annette Hirsch, who made the set, wanted to evoke. Now, who has good eyes here? Anybody? We're all getting a little older. Who has good eyes? Oscar, can you read what this says? You can hold it. It's pretty heavy. What does it say? In honor of David Kritzik's second bar mitzvah. November 15th, 1982. From all of his friends. Okay? So let's look at that for a second. So second bar mitzvah. When can you have a second bar mitzvah? Your first bar mitzvah is at 13.
When a boy wakes up at 13, he is a bar mitzvah. So
he is a bar mitzvah. So that's the first bar mitzvah. So when can you have a second one?
Maybe when you are called to the Torah.
No. It's actually a year.
50 years after your
It's a little more than 50. Yeah, 70 years later. So 70 is considered a full life, okay? So when you've reached 70, it's tabula rasa. You start over. And so then 13 years later, at 83, you can have your second bar mitzvah. Okay? So look at the dates now. So this was commissioned by Annette Hirsch, by their friends. In 1982, David Kritzik had his second bar mitzvah. He was 83. So when was he born? 1899. So he was born in 1899. This was commissioned and kind of put in use in 1982. And here we are at 2026. And we're using it. So this kind of has a lot of history for almost like three different centuries. From 1899, then it was commissioned in 1982, and we're still using it now in 2026. So it's kind of cool. And Anesh Hirsch made this beautiful, beautiful system. Okay? So we'll leave this over to the side.
She's a great artist and a great silversmith.
Yes, she's a silversmith, and so she made all this stuff. Okay, so I will do the Hagba first, and then I know Ben has done it and Norm has done it, so we'll let you guys try it. And other people look at the technique, and then if you want to try it, you may as well. We bring it halfway down. We've set it here. Okay? So we set it here. You bring it halfway down. The reason halfway, it's a fulcrum. It's right in the middle. If you do it from here, it's almost actually in the middle, so which is good because it's not going to be so hard. It's not totally unbalanced. Okay? So, but it's a little hard. I mean to lift it like that. Straight up. Okay? But if you bring it halfway down, then you use gravity to helping you. So now it's very simple. Except the problem is you're too far away. Like you can't get it's a little. So what you do is you step into it and you kind of bend your knees. So you bring it halfway down. And then remember, this is too far away, so you kind of got to get closer. You can almost put your face very close to the text. So you go like this, get down, and then it's vertical. You just lift your knees. It's a lot easier. Bend with your knees. Okay, and then we turn around. So remember, and it's kind of you want to keep it taut. Okay, because otherwise it's kind of going all over the place. I think I'm going to go about like that, so it's not right on a seam. Okay, so bring it halfway down. Fulcrum, bend in, and then also be careful because, boom, it'll hit. If you keep it right against the table, it's going to hit the table. So there are a lot of things to think about. So bring it down, fulcrum, bring it out a little bit, show everybody, okay? There you go. And then after we say the word Adonai, Vizot, HaTorah, Asher Sam Moshe, Livnei Bnei Yisrael, Pi Adonai, and you come and sit down here. B'yad Moshe, then the Galila takes over, and then I'll show you, okay? So, who wants to try first? Ben, you want to do it? Who wants to be Galila? Who would like to rap? Sure. We can try first. Yeah. And then who would like to be Galila? Who would like to help to rap it? Because there's some things we have to do. Okay, Norm. All right. All right, good. So we set it up for you here. You come in, keep it taut. Bring it halfway down. Well, you bring it halfway first. And now you're going to kind of step down into it and keep it taut. Step into it. Okay? And then, there you go, straight. Very good. And then you're going to turn around. V'zot haTorah asher sam Moshe lifnei bnei Yisrael api Adonai. And you come and sit over here. B'yad Moshe. You sit down. And then we kind of make sure it stays vertical. And then you help to turn it from the bottom, and it's interlocking, and you help from the top. Okay? Very good. So the first thing we're going to do is you're going to keep it straight. Mm-hmm. You're going to let go, Norm. Okay?
I remember it from the other side.
Yeah. And then we're going to put the if you guys want to come around here, you can see a little bit better, too, for when you need to do it. So basically, whoever... sometimes there's one or two people, but let me show first. Okay, so you're going to kind of hold this against, and since there's a little bit of give, you kind of pull it. You don't want to go overshoot it because you want this to match up with this. So you pull it a little bit, and then match it up right there. Okay, so that's the first. That's putting on the belt. All right, then we put on the mantle, and the mantle is going to be facing Alina. So again, we've got this nice acrylic over here. Beautiful acrylic. And so we put it on like this, and then it goes over. You want to try that? You put it on like that, and then we put it over, and you can kind of see it a little better. Yep. Then we turn this, and we're going to have it rest on your shoulder. Okay? Then we put the last three things on. So we put on the breastplate. That goes over both. And then we do a kind of a fun turn with the yad. which I don't think is done in many congregations, but Rabbi Burks and
That's, I was gonna ask you where that comes from.
yeah. So
Nobody ever does it.
and nobody ever, yeah. So, but this is kind of a fun way. So we put it. Remember, this is the front. So we start it backwards, like this, over it, like that, and then you go around the side and through the middle, and it comes out the right way.
So that's not prescribed
I haven't really seen any other place do it. So I think it's kind of a cool thing. So you want to do it?
Sure.
So we put it over both, then around. And then, yeah, if you do it, if you just kind of wrap it around, you can just go straight through. So you want to try that? So you don't, because otherwise you kind of twist it. Wrap it around, and then you go straight through. There you go. Right. Perfect. And then the crown has these, and Annette Hirsch, she had made some other ones too. Sometimes when they're very thin, the first sets that she made was thin. It doesn't fit on these all the time. So you make thicker ones, and then it can fit on any of them. So she made it thicker, and so then this goes on both. And that's the well-dressed Torah. Okay? Well done. All right. Somebody else wants to try lifting, and somebody else wants to try doing the Galila. You want to try lifting? Okay. Who would like? So let's take this stuff back off really quickly. All right. Who wants to try Galila? Who has not done? Ben, you said you never did Galila. All right. So we'll have you do Galila. Yeah, I think traditionally men did Hagbah and women did Galila, but we're egalitarian. And there's nothing, that says we can't. Very nice, Alina. Okay. So let's get this set here. We'll take off the belt. Okay, so remember, about 2 or 3 columns, taut, halfway down. Oh, we're supposed to get some pictures. I just remembered. If we can take pictures, it took a while. This is probably a good thing to take pictures of. Now, you don't have to do it with me. Let's do it with some other people. But basically, because it has to be for Hakol. So everyone's okay? It's going to end up in Hakol? All right. And then we go like this, lift it up, and go over. Okay? So here we go. It's all set for you. Bring it halfway down. Get in. There you go. Vizot HaTorah Asher Sam Moshe Lifnei Bnei Yisrael El Pi Adonai. Come over this way. B'yad Moshe. Then you sit down. Ben, you're coming over right away? Oh, you're taking the pictures. Someone else can take picture. Take a picture of Ben doing this. Okay, we'll get some others too, so we have a few different ones. So we bring that together. Oh, you're supposed to bring that together. Okay. And then you start. You can do it a little more. Yeah, it can be a little tighter. Perfect. Okay. Then we have the mantle going on. And then the front is that way. Perfect. Okay, then we turn this. And the next thing is the breastplate. Okay. Then the breastplate goes on. Very nice. And then the yod starts out backwards.
Is this the front?
That's the front.
Okay.
Yeah, because it has all that. Yep. So it starts out backwards, and then we go around. Well, then, and if you go, actually watch this.
twist it.
Yeah, so you start out backwards, and then go around still, and then straight through. I mean, you don't have to, but then you can kind of see it. It's kind of cool. So you go around to the back. Yeah.
I still have a twist.
It's okay. Yeah, you put it down. So then it comes out the right way. And then the crown. All right, who's next? Who's going to try Hagbah next? Anybody want to try Hagbah? You want to do Hagbah? Galila? You want to do either of them? Hagbah or Galila?
I would dress again.
You want to dress? Okay. Somebody else wants to try Hagbah. Oh, why don't you, Norm? You'll do Hagbah. Okay. Just leave it there for a moment, just as long. I mean, usually I would take it from you dressed, but okay. So this will be the last one, I guess. We'll do. All right, thank you. And you'll do Galila?
Sure.
Okay. All All right, so let's kind of get this ready over here. All right. Wait. Megan, did you want to try and do a chagma? Huh? We should have a girl, a woman.
Make everybody not have to.
No. Come on, you can do it. Come on.
Okay, no.
Megan, please. Try it. Okay. So, no, he's done it. So, remember, halfway down.
Halfway down.
You're like aren't you a black belt?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so you have upper body strength. So basically, and then like that.
What if, you'll be fine.
I'm going to be right next to you. Okay? Keep it about 2 columns like that. Okay? Bring it halfway down. Okay, bend into it. Vizotato. Wait, but you want it, wait. No. Let me show you. No. It'll help if you get it totally vertical before you try and do anything. So get it, so you really have to get underneath. Then,
Then lift it.
right, because then it's vertical. Because otherwise you're still lifting. So totally vertical, but that's why you have to move away from it a little bit, Otherwise it's right against the table.
It's not this, it's pivot.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, I got that part.
Bring it down, halfway down.
Like this.
Yep. And then
If I
keep
drop
it taut.
this thing, oh my God.
No. We're not going to let you drop it. Okay, kind of bend into it. Vizot HaTorah asher sam Moshe lifnei b'nei, taut, lifnei b'nei Yisrael al pi Adonai. Coming down. Sit down. Moshe. I got it. Okay, Rich, come on in. Then you help from the bottom. Megan, you did it.
I did, I almost dropped it.
Okay, and then you're going to keep it straight. That was great.
All right, so this about there.
We start on, wait a minute, I think it's, oh, that's right. No, you're right. That's right. Okay, perfect. And then the mantle.
How often do you have to replace? I mean, everything breaks eventually.
Yeah, it hasn't really brought, but, I think pretty soon this tape is going to have to be. Yeah, and this, at some point, these are going to have lived their life, I think. There's been a few that have kind of,
Trade or whatever.
yeah.
Well, and does she spin it? Do you
No, usually one of us will
I'm a
spin it.
lefty, but I can hold it right.
Yeah, just hold it right there for now. Then the breastplate. I got that. It goes over both. Okay.
I was interested. So this, like you said, backwards first.
Yep. And then just kind of like straight around and then through the middle. Straight. Keep it in the same direction. Yep. There you go. Perfect. And then the crown.
Was there others?
Yeah, there's a front. There's a front and a back. Okay, beautiful. So then those who we had an opportunity, we continue on the service. Eventually we put the Torah away. And now why don't we all go up so you can see the other mantles, because you kind of notice how beautiful these are. All right? I'll take it. All right. So now, who would like to open the ark doors and the curtain for us at the end here? Looks like we've got 2 volunteers. Sometimes we sing Eitz Chaim Hi at the end. It is a tree of life. We put it. So guys, come on up so you can see. You can open those. Yeah, I'll sing that at the end. We'll end the class with Eitz Chaim Hi. Okay, I'll close it all together. Let's take a look. And you can push it, push it in with the thing. You can kind of push it. There you go. Okay, let me put this in here. And then I'll have you guys come in. Why don't you come in here so you can kind of see how beautiful these are. So you see some of them, like this has pomegranates on it. So she had designed, some kind of barrier with the white, and then when people put in that's why this didn't spread here, because whoever put in their dye here stayed here, this one stayed here, and so it came out with a beautiful pomegranate. So that has a pomegranate. You see that one has velvet, but it has a kind of a swath down the middle of the velvet. You see that one on the top, on the right. This one on the bottom, this has kind of the silk on the top, And then here you can see people made different linoleum to Tree of Life, the Star of David, different things, right? So they all have, they have a similar design, but they're all a little different, right? So let's sing together. If those who know it, it's Chaim hi lama chazikim ba v'tom cheha meushar deracheha darchei noam v'chol netivotea shalom hashivenu Adonai Elecha v'nashuva Chadesh, Chadesh Yamenu. We can close it. Chadesh Yamenu Kekedem. We kind of bring it up a little more. Beautiful. Aren't they cool? Yeah. And then we close the doors. And it's okay. And so we wish all of you, thank you for taking it. I hope you'll feel comfortable to do, to take part and do some of these beautiful honors that really carry us through the Torah service. And really, it's very uplifting. And you can see now the beauty of it instead of just, and the kind of how to, but the beauty of the whole thing. So thank you very much. My pleasure. Yeah. So let me thank those who are on Zoom. Thank you for coming and being a part. And we will talk with you soon. Thank you for participating. And we wish you well. Thanks.
Thank you.
Let me turn this off.